Your landlord just raised your rent again. That cramped studio apartment in downtown Portland now costs more than most people make in a month, and you're starting to wonder if there's anywhere left on Earth where regular folks can afford to live without eating ramen for every meal. But what if I told you there's an island nation where $600 doesn't just cover your rent? It covers everything, including beachfront living, fresh lobster dinners, and enough left over to hire a personal zebu cart driver? Welcome to Madagascar, the world's fourth largest island that somehow manages to fly completely under everyone's radar while offering the kind of lifestyle that most people only see in Instagram posts from trust fund kids. This isn't just another tropical paradise with overpriced coconut water and tourist traps. Madagascar is a country where lemurs outnumber tourists, where your biggest daily decision might be choosing between the 2 lobster or the 3 zebu steak, and where the locals are so friendly they'll invite you to family ceremonies that have been happening for centuries. Here's what blew my mind during 6 months of testing this budget. Madagascar has remained almost completely untouched by mass tourism, which means you get authentic cultural experiences at prices that seem like typos on a restaurant menu. While everyone's fighting over overpriced Airbnbs in Bali or Mexico, Madagascar sits quietly in the Indian Ocean, offering red earth landscapes that look like Mars, beaches that rival the Maldives, and wildlife that exists nowhere else on Earth. All while your monthly budget stays lower than what most people spend on coffee. The numbers sound impossible until you experience them firsthand. A beachfront bungalow that would cost $300 per night in Thailand runs about $15 here. Fresh seafood meals that would hit $50 in Miami cost $4 in Madagascar. A domestic flight across the entire island costs less than an Uber ride in New York. But here's the kicker: you're not sacrificing quality or safety for these prices. Madagascar offers genuine adventure, incredible biodiversity, and cultural richness that makes expensive destinations look artificial and overproduced. Madagascar's isolation has created something magical that economists call price discovery failure. Basically, the rest of the world hasn't figured out how amazing this place is yet, so prices remain at local levels even for international visitors. This creates a temporary window where your foreign currency provides lifestyle opportunities that won't exist once the secret gets out. The early adopters who figured out Thailand in the 1980s or Costa Rica in the 1990s experienced similar advantages, but Madagascar's moment is happening right now. But before you start booking flights, you need to understand exactly where Madagascar is and why its location created such a unique place. Madagascar sits in the Indian Ocean about 250 miles off the southeastern coast of Africa, but calling it African tells only part of the story. This island broke away from the African continent 160 million years ago, which gave its plants and animals enough time to evolve into species that exist nowhere else on Earth. We're talking about an entire country that's basically one giant natural laboratory. The island spans roughly 227,000 square miles, making it slightly smaller than Texas but packed with more ecological diversity than entire continents. The eastern coast features lush rainforests that get hammered by cyclones and monsoons, creating jungle environments that feel prehistoric. The western coast offers dry, deciduous forests and spectacular sunsets over calm waters perfect for sailing and fishing. The central highlands rise to over 9,000 feet, creating mountain climates where you might need a jacket while the coast bakes at 90 degrees. But Madagascar's human geography is even more fascinating than its physical features. The Malagasy people represent one of the most interesting cultural mixtures on Earth. Imagine Africans, Arabs, and Southeast Asians all contributing to a society that developed in isolation for over 1,000 years. The national language, Malagasy, shares roots with Malaysian and Indonesian languages, which explains why Malagasy people often look more Asian than African despite living next to Africa. French colonization from 1896 to 1960 added another layer to this cultural mixing, which explains why French remains widely spoken and why you will find excellent French bakeries in the most remote villages. The colonial period also created the infrastructure and administrative systems that make Madagascar surprisingly easy to navigate for Western visitors, despite its developing country status. This cultural blending shows up everywhere once you start paying attention. Traditional Malagasy architecture combines African building techniques with Asian design principles and French colonial influences, creating houses and public buildings that look completely unique. The cuisine blends rice-based Asian cooking with African meat preparations and French culinary techniques. Even the music combines African polyrhythms with Asian instrumental traditions and French melodic structures. Madagascar's 18 different ethnic groups each maintain distinct traditions and languages while sharing enough common culture to create national identity. The Merina people dominate the highland regions and historically controlled much of the island's politics and commerce. The Sakalava people control western coastal areas and maintain strong connections to maritime trading traditions. The Antandroy people have adapted to the harsh southern desert regions, while the Betsimisaraka people thrive in the eastern rainforest zones. Understanding these regional differences becomes important for visitors because each area offers different experiences, costs, and cultural expectations. The highland capital region around Antananarivo feels more urban and internationally connected, while coastal areas maintain stronger traditional lifestyles and often offer better value for budget travelers. Daily life in Madagascar moves to rhythms that have more to do with seasonal cycles and family obligations than clock time or economic productivity. Most Malagasy people wake with the sunrise around 6 a.m., but the pace of morning activities depends on location and season. Rural areas start with livestock care and agricultural tasks that follow traditional patterns established over generations. Urban areas buzz with market activity and commuter traffic that would be chaotic anywhere else, but somehow works through a combination of patience, negotiation, and mutual respect. The concept of Malagasy time becomes apparent quickly. Meetings start when participants arrive rather than at scheduled times. Meals happen when food is ready rather than at predetermined hours, and social visits extend naturally based on conversation flow rather than appointment schedules. This flexible approach to time initially frustrates Western visitors accustomed to rigid scheduling, but it creates opportunities for authentic cultural interactions that scheduled tourism can't provide. Family structures in Madagascar prioritize extended relationships over nuclear units, creating social safety nets that support individuals through economic difficulties and life transitions. Multiple generations often live in family compounds where grandparents, parents, and children share resources, childcare responsibilities, and decision-making authority. As a foreign visitor, being invited into these family structures provides insight into Malagasy values while creating genuine relationships that enhance travel experiences. Work patterns vary dramatically between urban and rural areas, but both maintain strong connections to traditional practices. Rural communities organize around agricultural cycles that determine planting, harvesting, and market activities. Urban areas feature more conventional business hours, but even office workers maintain family agricultural plots and participate in seasonal activities that connect them to traditional lifestyles. Religious practices blend Christianity with traditional ancestor worship in ways that create uniquely Malagasy spiritual expressions. About 85% of Malagasy people practice some form of Christianity, but most also maintain traditional beliefs about ancestor spirits and their influence on daily life. This religious blending shows up in ceremonies, festivals, and family practices that foreign visitors might witness if they spend time in local communities. Social hierarchies exist but operate differently than Western class systems. Age, family lineage, and spiritual knowledge often carry more weight than economic status or educational achievement. Elders receive deep respect regardless of their financial situation, and traditional healers and spiritual leaders maintain significant influence even in urban areas with modern medical facilities. Women in Malagasy society maintain relatively high status compared to many African cultures, often controlling household finances and participating actively in community decision-making. However, gender roles still follow traditional patterns in many areas, with men handling certain types of work and women managing others. Foreign visitors need to understand these dynamics to navigate social situations appropriately and respectfully. But speaking of social dynamics, let's talk about Malagasy food culture, because this is where your $600 budget starts looking absolutely magical. Malagasy cuisine represents one of the world's most underrated food cultures, combining ingredients and techniques from multiple continents while maintaining its own distinct identity and incredibly low prices. Rice forms the foundation of virtually every Malagasy meal, but calling it rice-based cuisine misses the incredible variety of preparations, seasonings, and accompanying dishes that create complex and satisfying meals. Malagasy rice isn't just steamed white rice, it's prepared with coconut milk, seasoned with local spices, mixed with vegetables or meat, or formed into various shapes and textures that serve different purposes within meals. Zebu, the humped cattle that roam Madagascar's landscapes, provides the primary meat source for most Malagasy meals. Zebu meat tastes similar to beef but with slightly different flavor profiles depending on preparation methods. Traditional Zebu preparations include slow-cooked stews that tenderize tough cuts, grilled steaks seasoned with local spices, and dried meat that preserves protein for extended periods. A substantial Zebu meal at local restaurants costs 2 titater to 4, compared to $20 to $40 for similar portions in Western countries. Madagascar's coastline provides incredible seafood opportunities that rival any tropical destination, but at prices that seem fictional. Fresh lobster, caught that morning, costs $5 to $18 for portions that would run $40 to $60 in American restaurants. Crab, prawns, and various fish species are available daily at coastal markets for prices that make seafood a regular part of budget dining rather than special occasion splurging. Local markets feature tropical fruits that many Western visitors have never encountered. Lychees, rambutans, jackfruit, and dragon fruit sell for pennies per pound. Vendors encourage tasting before purchasing, creating opportunities to try exotic fruits without commitment. Many fruits are seasonal, so market visits throughout the year reveal different options and flavors that add variety to budget eating. Street food culture offers some of Madagascar's best culinary experiences at prices that make eating out cheaper than cooking at home. Grilled meat skewers cost about $0.75 each and provide substantial protein portions. Coffee culture in Madagascar deserves special mention because the country produces some of the world's best coffee while maintaining prices that make daily coffee habits affordable rather than luxurious. Local coffee shops serve excellent espresso or traditional preparations for $0.50, $1, compared to $3 for similar quality in Western cities. Many small towns feature coffee cooperatives where visitors can observe roasting process and purchase high-quality beans at wholesale prices. Traditional Malagasy alcoholic beverages include various fermented drinks made from local ingredients. Tawaka Gassi, made from sugarcane, provides local spirits that range from smooth-sipping drinks to powerful moonshine that requires caution and respect. Rum Érangé, influenced by French colonial traditions, combines local rum with tropical fruits and spices to create flavored spirits that reflect regional ingredients and preferences. Cooking techniques in Madagascar blend Asian stir-frying methods with African slow-cooking traditions and French preparation refinements. Traditional meals often feature multiple small dishes rather than single large portions, encouraging variety and social eating patterns. Family meals become social events where conversation and relationship building take precedence over efficient food consumption. The social aspects of Malagasy eating culture emphasize hospitality and sharing that make meals meaningful experiences rather than mere nutrition delivery. Visitors invited to family meals participate in cultural exchanges that provide insight into Malagasy values, traditions, and daily life that no restaurant experience can match. Now, let's address something that many travelers wonder about but rarely discuss openly. What's the social and dating scene really like in Madagascar, and how do cross-cultural relationships work in practice? This requires honest discussion balanced with cultural sensitivity and respect for local customs and values. Malagasy society maintains relatively traditional approaches to relationships and family formation, but these traditions operate within a cultural context that's more flexible and accepting than many conservative societies. Gender roles exist but aren't rigidly enforced, particularly in urban areas where education and economic opportunities have created more egalitarian relationships between men and women. Dating culture in Madagascar emphasizes getting to know potential partners through family and community connections rather than individual romantic pursuit. Traditional courtship involves extended periods of friendship and social interaction within group settings before relationships become romantic or exclusive. This creates opportunities for genuine compatibility assessment, but requires patience from Western visitors accustomed to more direct dating approaches. Family approval and involvement in relationships remain significant throughout Madagascar, but this involvement typically supports rather than restricts individual choice. Parents and extended family members provide guidance and support for relationship decisions while respecting personal preferences and emotional connections. Meeting family members happens early in Malagasy relationships and provides insight into cultural values and social expectations. Malagasy women maintain relatively high status within their communities and families, often controlling household finances and participating actively in business and political activities. Education levels among women have increased dramatically in recent decades, creating generations of educated, ambitious women who balance traditional family values with modern career goals and personal independence. Physical appearance standards in Madagascar reflect the country's multicultural heritage, celebrating features that represent various ethnic influences rather than promoting single beauty ideals. Traditional dress and jewelry remain important for cultural celebrations and formal occasions, while daily fashion combines international trends with local preferences and practical considerations. Language barriers can complicate cross-cultural relationships, particularly outside major cities where French and English proficiency may be limited. However, many young Malagasy people speak functional French, and some speak English, creating communication opportunities for international visitors. Learning basic Malagasy phrases demonstrates respect and effort that local people genuinely appreciate. Economic factors influence relationship dynamics in ways that foreign visitors should understand sensitively. Madagascar remains one of the world's poorest countries by per capita income measures, which means international visitors have significant economic advantages that can create relationship imbalances requiring careful navigation. Social activities that bring people together include community festivals, religious celebrations, market days, and family gatherings that provide natural opportunities for meeting people and building relationships within appropriate cultural contexts. Beach communities offer relaxed social environments where visitors and locals interact naturally through shared activities and interests. The nightlife scene varies dramatically between urban and rural areas, with cities offering bars, clubs, and restaurants that cater to both local and international tastes. Rural areas feature traditional entertainment that might include music, dancing, and community celebrations that provide cultural experiences alongside social opportunities. But social life extends far beyond dating and relationships into Madagascar's rich cultural traditions that blend ancient practices with contemporary expressions in ways that create some of the most authentic cultural experiences available anywhere. Malagasy music combines African polyrhythms with Asian instrumental traditions and French melodic influences to create sounds that are simultaneously familiar and completely unique. Traditional instruments include the valiha, a bamboo tube zither that produces haunting melodies perfect for storytelling and ceremonial purposes. The kabosi, a small guitar-like instrument, provides rhythmic accompaniment for social singing and dancing. Music permeates daily life in Madagascar rather than existing as separate entertainment. Work songs accompany agricultural activities, religious songs enhance spiritual ceremonies, and social songs bring communities together for celebrations and gatherings. Visitors who spend time in local communities inevitably encounter musical performances that provide insight into Malagasy values, history, and artistic expression. Traditional dancing accompanies musical performances and tells stories about historical events, seasonal cycles, spiritual beliefs, and community relationships. Regional dance styles reflect local cultural influences and environmental conditions, creating diverse expressions that showcase Madagascar's cultural complexity. Learning basic dance steps provides opportunities for cultural participation and social bonding with local communities. The Famadihana ceremony, known as turning of the bones, represents one of Madagascar's most distinctive cultural practices. Every few years, families exhume ancestors' remains, rewrap them in fresh shrouds, and dance with them before returning them to tombs. This ceremony reflects Malagasy beliefs about the continuing relationship between living and deceased family members and their mutual influence on family prosperity and spiritual well-being. Ancestor veneration influences daily life through various practices that honor deceased family members and seek their guidance for important decisions. Tomb construction often requires significant family resources and represents architectural expressions of family identity and spiritual beliefs. Visitors invited to participate in ancestor-related ceremonies experience profound cultural insights that academic study cannot provide. Traditional healing practices combine plant-based medicines with spiritual techniques that address both physical and supernatural causes of illness. Traditional healers, known as Biodiversity, maintain knowledge of medicinal plants, diagnostic techniques, and spiritual practices that complement rather than compete with modern medical care. Many Malagasy people use both traditional and modern healing methods depending on the nature of their health concerns. Storytelling traditions preserve historical knowledge, cultural values, and entertainment through oral narratives passed down through generations. Traditional stories often feature moral lessons, historical events, or explanations for natural phenomena that provide insight into Malagasy worldviews and social expectations. Evening storytelling sessions in rural areas offer visitors opportunities to experience these traditions firsthand. Craft traditions include wood carving, weaving, metalwork, and jewelry making that produce both functional items and artistic expressions. Local artisans often welcome visitors to observe their work processes and purchase items directly from producers. Learning traditional craft techniques provides cultural education and supports local economies while creating meaningful souvenirs and memories. Now, let's get to the heart of what you're probably most curious about. Can you actually live comfortably in Madagascar on $600 per month? And what does that lifestyle look like day to day? I spent 6 months testing this budget across different regions and living situations, and the results were frankly incredible. Housing represents your largest expense category, but Malagasy housing costs create opportunities that simply don't exist in developed countries. In Antananarivo, the capital and most expensive city, I found clean, furnished rooms in shared houses for $120 per month, including utilities and basic amenities. These weren't desperate accommodations. They featured reliable electricity, running water, internet access, and safe neighborhoods with local amenities. For those preferring private accommodation, studio apartments in decent neighborhoods rent for $150 to $200 monthly, while one-bedroom apartments cost $200 to $300. Outside the capital, housing costs drop dramatically. In coastal towns, I found beachfront bungalows for $100 $150 monthly that would cost $200 to $300 per night as vacation rentals in other tropical destinations. Rural village accommodation offers even more dramatic savings, with traditional houses available for $50 to $80 monthly. These arrangements often include community relationships and cultural experiences that provide insight into traditional Malagasy life while offering accommodation costs that barely register on international budgets. Food expenses on a Malagasy budget become almost laughably low compared to Western standards. Shopping at local markets and cooking basic meals, I averaged $60 to $80 monthly for all groceries, including rice, vegetables, meat, fruit, and cooking supplies. This provided varied, nutritious meals with enough ingredients for occasional dinner parties and guest entertainment. Eating out regularly remained completely affordable at local establishments. Substantial meals at neighborhood restaurants cost $2.54. Street food runs $0.50, $1.50, and even upscale dining rarely exceeds $10.50 per person. I could eat all meals out and still spend less than $150 monthly total, compared to $500 and $800 for a similar frequency in developed countries. Transportation costs virtually nothing by international standards. Local buses in cities cost about $0.25 per ride, while Taxi Bruce, shared taxis, for longer distances, charge $3 to $8 for trips that might cost $50 to $100 in other countries. Domestic flights between major cities cost $50 to $100, making air travel accessible for budget travelers wanting to see multiple regions efficiently. Communication expenses remain minimal, with local SIM cards providing unlimited data for 10 to 15 monthly and international calling options that keep overseas communication affordable. Internet cafes in smaller towns charge about $1 per hour for reliable connections when home internet is unavailable. Entertainment and cultural activities cost almost nothing compared to Western standards. Local festivals, music performances, and community celebrations are typically free. Movie tickets cost $2.3, live music events range from free to $5.8, and even organized tours to national parks and cultural sites rarely exceed $20 to $30 per person. Healthcare deserves mention as a budget category because medical care in Madagascar costs a fraction of developed country prices while providing adequate service for routine needs. Basic medical consultations cost $5.10. Prescription medications are available at low costs, and dental care runs $10 to $30 for routine procedures. The total lifestyle this budget provides is genuinely impressive by international standards. I was living in interesting locations, eating fresh and varied food, participating in cultural activities, traveling within the country regularly, and maintaining international communication, all while saving money each month. The same lifestyle in developed countries would require $2,000 or $3,000 monthly minimum. What makes this budget particularly effective is how Malagasy culture supports affordable living through community resources, traditional practices, and social systems that provide services and experiences without commercial pricing. Markets, festivals, social gatherings, and community activities create rich lifestyles that don't depend on expensive entertainment or consumer goods. The key to success on this budget involves adapting to local living patterns rather than maintaining Western consumption habits. This means shopping at markets rather than supermarkets, eating local foods rather than imported products, using public transport rather than private vehicles, and participating in community activities rather than commercial entertainment. But enjoying these budget advantages requires understanding how to navigate Madagascar's transportation systems, which combine French colonial infrastructure with local innovations in ways that create both challenges and opportunities for budget travelers. Madagascar's transportation networks reflect the country's geography and development history, creating systems that work reliably for local needs while requiring patience and flexibility from international visitors. The road network connects major cities and towns with varying quality surfaces that range from excellent paved highways to rough dirt tracks that become impassable during rainy seasons. Taxi bus services provide the backbone of intercity transportation, using modified minibuses and trucks to carry passengers and cargo between destinations throughout the country. These vehicles operate on flexible schedules that depend on passenger load and driver discretion, creating travel experiences that prioritize community over efficiency. Fares remain incredibly low. A 300-kilometer trip might cost $5, but journey times can extend well beyond what distance alone would suggest. The taxi bus experience becomes part of Madagascar's cultural education, as passengers share food, conversation, and music during extended travel times. Vehicles stop frequently for passenger pickup, mechanical adjustments, and driver social interactions that create opportunities for cultural observation and social connection. Comfortable travel requires accepting unpredictable schedules and cramped conditions in exchange for authentic local experiences and minimal costs. Urban transportation in major cities relies on taxi services that range from individual cars to shared minibuses that follow flexible routes based on passenger demand. Negotiating fares requires basic French or Malagasy language skills and understanding of local pricing norms to avoid tourist overcharging. Motorbike taxis offer faster service in congested areas but require comfort with Madagascar's creative traffic patterns. Domestic aviation connects major cities and tourist destinations with regular service that makes long-distance travel feasible for time-conscious visitors. Air Madagascar operates most domestic routes with reasonable safety records and competitive pricing that makes flights accessible for budget travelers wanting to cover large distances efficiently. Advance booking often provides better fares, while last-minute purchases can be expensive by local standards. Boat transportation serves coastal communities and islands that lack road connections, creating opportunities for scenic travel and access to remote areas. Ferry services vary in comfort and reliability, with some routes offering pleasant travel experiences while others require patience with basic amenities and unpredictable schedules. Walking remains the primary transportation method for many Malagasy people, particularly in rural areas where vehicle ownership is uncommon. This creates pedestrian-friendly environments in many locations, though road conditions and traffic patterns require attention to safety considerations. Bicycle rentals provide affordable options for local transportation and sightseeing in areas with suitable terrain and traffic conditions. Many guest houses and hotels offer bicycle access for guests, creating opportunities for independent exploration at minimal cost. Car rentals are available in major cities and tourist areas, but they require international driving permits, familiarity with local traffic customs, and comfort with road conditions that can vary dramatically between regions. Fuel costs remain reasonable by international standards, but vehicle rental rates reflect limited supply and high import costs for vehicles. The transportation experience in Madagascar requires flexibility, patience, and cultural sensitivity, but it provides authentic travel experiences and incredibly low costs that create opportunities for extended exploration and cultural immersion that expensive transportation systems cannot match. And that brings us to what makes all this transportation worthwhile. Madagascar has absolutely incredible natural wonders that rival any destination on Earth while remaining accessible at budget-friendly prices. Madagascar's biodiversity represents one of the planet's greatest natural treasures, with over 90% of its species existing nowhere else on Earth. This isn't tourism marketing hyperbole. It's scientific fact that makes Madagascar a living laboratory where evolution created unique solutions to environmental challenges over millions of years of isolation. Lemurs capture most visitors' attention, and rightfully so. These primates evolved without competition from monkeys or apes, creating over 100 species that range from tiny mouse lemurs to massive indri that sing like whales. Andasibi Mantadia National Park offers the best lemur viewing opportunities, with habituated groups that allow close observation of natural behaviors. Park entrance fees cost about $15, while guided walks add another $10 to $15. providing world-class wildlife experiences for less than the cost of lunch in developed countries. The Avenue of the Baobabs creates one of Madagascar's most iconic landscapes, where ancient trees silhouetted against dramatic sunsets provide photography opportunities that rival any natural wonder. These trees, some over 800 years old, represent Madagascar's symbol and create spiritual experiences that connect visitors to the island's ancient natural history. The site remains free to visit, though local guides and transportation arrangements support community tourism initiatives. Isalo National Park showcases Madagascar's geological diversity through sandstone formations, natural pools, and endemic plants that create landscapes resembling the American Southwest. Multi-day trekking opportunities provide camping experiences in wilderness areas that few tourists ever visit, with costs that include guides, camping equipment, and meals for about $30 to $40 per person daily. Madagascar's coast offers coral reefs, pristine beaches, and marine life that compete with any tropical destination, but without crowds or high prices. Nosy Be, the main tourist island, provides accommodation and activities at costs that make extended stays affordable rather than brief indulgences. Snorkeling and diving operations charge $20 to $40 for full-day trips that include equipment, guides, and meals. The Chingi de Bemaraha creates otherworldly landscapes of limestone pinnacles that require technical climbing skills to navigate safely. These formations support unique plant and animal communities while providing adventure tourism opportunities for visitors seeking challenging outdoor experiences. Access requires advanced planning and reasonable fitness levels, but costs remain minimal compared to similar adventure destinations. Ankara Fensaika National Park protects dry deciduous forests that support lemur species, endemic birds, and traditional forest management systems that demonstrate sustainable resource use. Lake Ravalobe within the park provides crocodile viewing opportunities and fishing experiences that connect visitors to traditional Malagasy relationships with natural resources. Madagascar's mineral wealth creates opportunities for visitors interested in geology and gemstones. Sapphire, ruby, and semi-precious stone mining areas welcome visitors to observe extraction processes and purchase stones directly from miners at wholesale prices. These experiences provide insight into local economies while offering unique shopping opportunities. Whale watching along Madagascar's coast brings humpback whales close to shore during migration seasons, creating marine wildlife experiences that rival more expensive destinations. Local boat operators provide viewing trips for $20 to $30 per person, making whale watching accessible for budget travelers rather than luxury tourists. The national park system requires entrance fees and guide arrangements, but total costs for comprehensive natural experiences remain incredibly low by international standards. Most parks charge $10 to $20 entrance fees. Guides cost $10 to $15 daily, and camping or basic accommodation adds $5 to $15 nightly. These fees support conservation efforts and local communities while providing visitors access to natural wonders that exist nowhere else on Earth. But all these incredible experiences raise practical questions about safety, healthcare, and daily life logistics that anyone considering Madagascar travel or residence needs to understand honestly and thoroughly. Madagascar maintains relatively low crime rates, particularly for violent crimes against tourists or residents. Petty theft occurs in urban areas and tourist zones, requiring basic precautions around valuables and personal security, but violent crime remains uncommon. Rural areas generally feel very safe, with community social structures that provide informal security and mutual support systems. Healthcare quality varies significantly between urban and rural areas, with major cities offering medical facilities that provide adequate care for routine needs and emergency situations. Private clinics in Antananarivo and other major cities employ doctors trained in French or other international medical systems, providing care that meets basic international standards for common medical needs. Rural healthcare relies more heavily on traditional healing practices and basic medical posts that handle routine care, but may lack resources for serious medical emergencies. Visitors planning extended stays in remote areas should consider medical evacuation insurance and maintain supplies of prescription medications and basic medical supplies. Tropical diseases including malaria remain endemic in many areas, requiring prophylactic medications and preventive measures that visitors should discuss with travel medicine practitioners before arrival. Dengue fever, chikungunya, and other mosquito-borne illnesses also occur, making insect protection and awareness important health considerations. Water quality varies by location, with urban areas generally providing treated water that's safe for consumption, while rural areas may require water purification or bottled water consumption. Food safety requires attention to preparation methods and vendor selection, particularly for street food and raw preparations. Educational opportunities for international residents include French language schools that follow French educational systems, plus some English language options in major cities. International families often use distance learning programs or international correspondence schools to maintain educational continuity. Madagascar's judicial and legal systems operate under French civil law traditions with local modifications, creating legal frameworks that generally protect foreign residents and visitors while requiring basic understanding of local legal customs and procedures. Banking services in major cities include international banks and money transfer services that facilitate financial management for foreign residents, though rural areas may lack banking infrastructure that requires cash-based transactions and financial planning. Internet connectivity has improved significantly in recent years, with fiber optic cables providing reliable high-speed service in major cities and cellular data coverage extending to most populated areas. Remote areas may still lack reliable internet access, requiring planning for visitors dependent on internet connectivity for work or communication. Safety considerations include seasonal weather patterns that can create travel disruptions during cyclone season, road conditions that require appropriate vehicle selection and driving skills, and rural area navigation that benefits from local guides and cultural sensitivity. These practical considerations are manageable with appropriate preparation and realistic expectations, but they require honest acknowledgement that Madagascar remains a developing country where infrastructure and services may not meet developed country standards consistently. Finally, let's address the visa and residency requirements that determine whether your Madagascar dreams can become legal reality, plus the practical aspects of setting up life in this incredible country. Madagascar offers relatively straightforward visa policies for most international visitors, with tourist visas available on arrival for stays up to 90 days. These visas cost about $35 to $55 depending on duration and can be extended for additional periods through immigration offices in major cities. The process is generally efficient and transparent, though it requires cash payment in euros or dollars. Longer-term residence requires work permits, investment visas, or marriage to Malagasy citizens, with requirements that vary based on individual circumstances and intended activities. Professional services in Antananarivo can assist with residency applications, though costs and processing times reflect Madagascar's developing administrative systems. The growing digital nomad and remote work community in Madagascar benefits from reliable internet infrastructure in major cities and low living costs that make extended stays financially viable. Many remote workers use tourist visas with periodic visa runs to nearby countries like Mauritius or Réunion to reset their legal status. Banking access for foreigners requires residency documentation and can be complicated for short-term visitors, though money transfer services and international ATM networks provide financial access for most practical needs. Cash remains important for daily transactions, particularly outside major cities. Setting up local communication services requires basic documentation and can usually be accomplished within days of arrival. Local SIM cards provide excellent value for data and calling services, while international roaming rates from home countries are typically expensive and impractical for extended stays. Housing arrangements often operate on informal agreements rather than formal lease contracts, particularly for short-term rentals and room-sharing situations. This provides flexibility but requires clear communication about expectations and payment terms to avoid misunderstandings. Local integration benefits from basic French language skills and cultural sensitivity about Malagasy customs and social expectations. Community relationships develop naturally through consistent presence and respectful participation in local activities and social structures. The expatriate community in Madagascar remains small but supportive, with informal networks that provide practical advice, social connections, and cultural orientation for newcomers. These communities often center around international organizations, business networks, or shared interest groups. So, after 6 months of testing the $600 budget, experiencing everything from village ceremonies to national park adventures, from market cooking to beachfront relaxation, what's the honest verdict about Madagascar as a lifestyle destination? Madagascar exceeded my expectations in virtually every category that matters for quality of life and cultural experience. The budget not only worked but provided lifestyle opportunities that would cost 5 to 10 times as much in developed countries. The cultural authenticity offered genuine insights into ways of life that exist nowhere else, while the natural beauty provided daily inspiration and adventure opportunities that most people only experience on expensive vacations. The people proved consistently welcoming and curious about foreign visitors, creating social connections that enriched the experience far beyond typical tourist interactions. The pace of life provided stress reduction and life satisfaction that no amount of expensive entertainment or luxury amenities could match. The cultural traditions offered spiritual and intellectual engagement that challenged assumptions and expanded perspectives. But Madagascar isn't perfect, and it's not suitable for everyone. Infrastructure limitations require patience and flexibility that can frustrate visitors accustomed to reliable utilities and transportation. Language barriers exist and require effort to overcome through French or Malagasy language learning. Healthcare and emergency services may not meet developed country standards for serious medical situations. The isolation that preserves Madagascar's authenticity also creates challenges for maintaining connections to home countries and accessing imported goods or services. Seasonal weather patterns can disrupt travel plans and daily activities during cyclone season. Economic development remains uneven, with significant differences between urban and rural opportunities and services. However, these challenges become manageable with appropriate preparation and realistic expectations. The rewards, financial, cultural, spiritual, and personal, far outweigh the difficulties for people who approach Madagascar with genuine curiosity and respect for local culture. Madagascar offers something increasingly rare in our globalized world: genuine cultural authenticity combined with natural wonders that exist nowhere else, all accessible at costs that make extended stays financially realistic rather than financially stressful. This creates opportunities for life experiences and personal growth that simply aren't available in more developed or expensive destinations. Comment below and tell me, what surprised you most about Madagascar from this exploration? Was it the budget possibilities, the unique wildlife, the cultural traditions, or something else entirely? And if you're seriously considering a Madagascar adventure, what questions do you still have about making it work practically? Because ultimately, that's what travel should provide. Not just temporary escape from expensive Western lifestyles, but genuine alternatives for how life can be lived when financial constraints don't dominate every decision. Madagascar offers those alternatives in abundance, wrapped up in a package that's accessible, authentic, and absolutely transformative. The only question remaining is whether you're ready to experience one of the world's last authentic destinations before the rest of the world catches on and changes everything forever.